just got out here to these houses so we can start today's project. So we can turn these lights on. And here it is inside right now. Got to run back over to this house here and grab the drill. We set it up yesterday, so I can show you what it looks like when it's fully set up. We set this one up yesterday. Got the heaters turned on. It's warming up in here slowly. I think we get new chicks a couple days. I think we got like 2 or 3 days before we get new chicks. So you want to turn the heaters on when you set up a few days before, so the barns get a chance to slowly warm up, so it's not just a radical, rise in temperature. Find this drill. I don't know where I put it. Here it is. Oh, it's a little bit broke. Looks like we got a light bulb that needs changed. First things first, we gotta get all these feed and water lines off the ceiling onto the ground. And for that, this is what this is for. And that rod hooks up there to that winch, and it runs that winch either up or down. And this just makes it a lot easier, so we don't gotta do it by hand. We do have a hand crank. That's what he's doing right now, but this is just a lot easier. So we got both sides lowered. Now he's gonna go down to that end with those buckets, and we're gonna drain these water lines out just because they've been sitting for a few weeks, and the water sitting in there, it gets pretty gross. We don't want any birds drinking that, so we're gonna drain it out until it runs clear and is all clean. And then we can come over here and get these heat sensors down. Sometimes they get hung up on the pulley right there. It has 5 of those, all on this side, clear down to the end. We have the main water valve on right there. We can turn these on the regulator, and that's flush mode. So instead of this regulating the pressure to keep it down enough for the chickens to drink out of these nipples, it just gives it full pressure so we can blow all that gross water out, clear down to the end there where the buckets are sitting. And you get a couple that are kind of leaky. Well, that's why. It shows how good I am. All I had to do was touch it and it quit leaking, so I guess that shows you what I'm all about. So while he's down there draining the water out, I guess I can work on getting these hoppers put in on the feed line. Signal to me the water's running clear, so I can shut it off there. So then I can shut each one of these, so he can shut the valve at the end of the water line. Shuts that valve down there before I shut this one, and water is still running into that line. Once he shuts that valve and the water has nowhere to go, this tube is flying off and hitting the ceiling. We're done draining all of these. I can lower this down to where the bottom of these little cup tray things are just barely touching the sawdust. So now we got the feed line going. Usually you gotta give it a little bit of persuasion. That tractor bucket filling up with feed. You'll see what we do with that in a second. We still got a couple more things to do down on this end before we can start on that side. I actually have my brother over there lowering that feed and water lines down. Now we're gonna take these hoses off and then cap the end of this water line with these little caps, because you only want water in this half of this water line, because no birds are going to be over there until day 7. Day 7 we'll come out and take these off and then attach these hoses back up, and they can go all the way wherever they want. I do have misplaced my last cap, and I really don't want to walk all the way back over there. As soon as you drop something in this, it instantly turns invisible. Oh, there it is. This job is to put these boards all the way across the floor. That's why we had to take those hoses off, so that board can go through there from wall to wall, just to make sure that they stay here and don't wander off in here, because there's going to be no food or water right here anyways, so we don't want them out here. So I got this side built. Now I'll have to go to the other side and do this exact same thing, and then I'll just put 2 in the middle. It's really simple. I just have these 2 little, man, that's a loud fan. I just got a stake that I put behind this one. I hammer it in, and then I put a little bend in this board, put a little bit of tension on it. Then I hammer this one in right there, and do the same over there. And I'll just throw some right there. Got this side's water draining. He's down there somewhere. And while we're doing that, I can put on the hoppers to this side. Then we can move on to the next thing. This side is now done draining, and I realized I put this hopper on backwards. This is supposed to be over there, but we'll fix that in a little bit. Now to these trays. We get a couple of bundles of those, and all we do with those is we lay them on the ground on the outside of this feed line here, all the way down to our little wall there. And then on the feed line, we put them under each one of these little spouts. They're about every other feed pan, every 2 feed pans. So the reason for those is for when the chicks are small and they can't really get into these feed pans very well. Those little they're basically just plates, sit under there, and they fill up with feed. And then on day like 7, we'll close those little spouts, and then we'll give them a day or 2 to eat the feed, and then we'll pull them away. And by that time, we'll be taking that wall down, and they'll be able to get in and eat from there fairly easily. Kind of what it looks like. Look at that straight line. I mean, don't get much better than that. But anyways, we're gonna put all these boxes on all 4 lines once he gets done down there. Then we can start doing this, and this is about the last thing we can do today. Here is one more thing that I forgot to mention earlier, is on the other side of this wall where the chicks aren't gonna be, the first 3 feed pans we turn upside down, because there's a switch right there in that pan, and what that's supposed to do is when the feed makes its way to that switch, that shuts off the auger that's down at the end of that feed line. So the feed shouldn't go into this section of line. So when these are upside down, there's just a hole in the bottom of the feed line there. So if that switch fails for whatever reason, then it won't run all the way down to the end of the line. The final thing is shoveling all this feed into these trays. Not those ones, just these ones along the feed line all the way down to the end. Or excuse me, the water line all the way down to the end. And It is a lot easier with 3 people, so we can have 2 shoveling and 1 on the tractor, but this is all we got today, so it'll be all right. So we got all the boxes filled up. Now we're gonna take this bucket off, leave it right there. It's still got a little bit of feed in it. We'll have to fill it up again when we do that last house there. This tractor's doing its DPF clean out. It's about empty on fuel, so I have to take it back across the road to our tank and fill it up. Someone unplugged the pump.